Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Clutch Conversations. It's your boy Mike. We are back at you one more again, live on a Thursday night, man. I hope everybody's feeling well, doing all right, man. And I hope y'all feeling just like me, stoked and ready for a dope show. But first and foremost, shout out to my lovely wife, Takara, for holding us down. Shout out to my lovely wife, Takara, for everything that you do. Y'all definitely show us some love in the comments and also do us a solid and show the channel some love. Hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and definitely smash that notification bell and make sure you get the notifications for all the videos that's coming your way. And if the spirit moves you, help us pay some bills and drop a super chat. And speaking of paying some bills, be on the lookout next week because we got 2 new sponsors for the show that we're going to announce next week. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Follow us on IG. So it's at Herp Collectors. That's our main page. And then follow the show page as well at Clutch Conversations. Full disclosure right now, it's a lot of duplicate posting on the 2 pages, but at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, we're going to kind of like separate what we're sharing on each of the pages. The Herp Collectors page going to focus more on the animals and the snakes and things of that nature, while the Clutch Conversation page is going to focus more on the show. So definitely give us a follow at both places. So that's at Herp Collectors and at Clutch Conversations. Definitely check us out on the audio only versions. So audio recordings of Clutch Conversations are available on all major podcast platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, more. So definitely check us out there. And when you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform, please follow, rate, and review. It really helps us out. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the support. Speaking of support, if you're involved in this reptile hobby in any shape, form, or fashion, make sure you're supporting US Art and US Art Florida. The links for both organizations are in the description of this video. If you're not a member, definitely go grab your membership. If you're able to donate what you can. Be sure to spread the word about both these organizations that help protect our rights as reptile keepers. So that's US Art and US Art Florida. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Keep it going, spread the word. Make sure we got as many members as possible and make sure we have as much financial support as possible because it takes money to make things happen in this world. So definitely support US Art and US Art Florida. Let's see who we got in the chat tonight, man. The chat is going crazy as expected. Really appreciate y'all coming out, showing love. Let's see who we got. We got the homie Will's Hella Heat in the building. What's good, bro? Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming out. We got TJ from Ripping Reptiles. Thanks for coming out. What's good? 352 in the building. What's good? The homie Brian in the chat. What's good? We got Scales, Fins, and Feathers. What's good? Thank you for coming out. We got the homie Eric's More Factory. Thanks for coming out. What's good? What's good? Who else we got? We got Kaju, the homie Dylan. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you checking out the show. Appreciate you showing love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got the homie Bosa Balls. Like the homie Keys say, hey, Aaron, what's good, bro? Kike, thanks for coming out. Bosa Balls showing love in the building. Who else we got? Eric's More, what's good? Keys Constrictor. Speaking of the fam, what's good, fam? Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming out. Who else we got? Jaw Dropping Morris. What's good, Jared? Thank you for coming out. If it's your first time out, definitely hit that subscribe button. And everybody, again, make sure y'all hit that like button and hit that notification bell. Thanks for coming out. Smoky Mountain Balls. We got Bree in the building. What's good? Thank you for coming out, sis. Denmark's Den, what's good? Appreciate the follow earlier today. Thanks for coming out. Derek Capron, what's good? Thanks for coming out. Serp Works, what's good? Serp Works in the building. Thank you for coming out. Got Golf's Reptile Creations. What's good, Casey? Thank you for coming out. Thank you for coming out. Ebony and Ivory Reptiles, the homie in the building. Big Matt, what's good, bro? Thanks for coming out. Snakes and the Fat Man. We got Chris. We got an OG in the building. Thank you for coming out. RC Reptiles, what's good? Thanks for coming out. Small Town Exotics, the homie Shane Kelly in the building. What's good, bro? Tennessee representing. Bold Coast Exotics, what's good? Thanks for coming out. Got Jeffy Exotics, what's good, homie? Jeffy, what's good, bro? We're gonna stop it right there. We're gonna kick this intro. We're gonna get right to the show. Be back in a sec.
Baby, baby, won't you listen to me? I got that flavor, I know you're dying to feed. I ain't no dancer, just got some hip in my feet. Now throw your hands up. Ooh, you bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll add the fuel. Follow my lead, just watch the shoes. Gotta turn the heat up. This cool.
Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this? Who you know who looking like this for real? Who you know who looking like this?
Episode 61, Gobble's Reptiles. What's up? What's up? What's up? How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing good. I love it when I see look at the background and I see the guests like jamming to the intro. Like that makes me feel so good.
I was like, and then he goes, "You're in the show," and I was like, "What? Oh no, white girl ain't supposed to be dancing like that."
How you doing? You doing good? You doing good? How was your day?
Crazy. Just I think I'm running on like 6 hours of sleep in the last week. So I've been staying up to about 5 to write, sleeping in the morning, sleeping for an hour, and then getting up and doing it again the next day. So I'm so glad this week's almost over.
Yeah, the grind continues. I was about to say 6 hours. I was going to say that's good, but 6 hours for the week. Yeah, I feel you. So, Britt,
I'm running on adrenaline and caffeine right now. So,
hey, whatever works. Yeah, I definitely been there. Yeah, like we was talking backstage. Like, I don't know what it is, but you like offer some interesting perspective in terms of like folks who wait to the last minute to get stuff done. And I feel like I'm always getting stuff done at the last minute, but it's not because I'm procrastinating. Like, I got so many things going on, but like you said, like I'm kind of doing it mentally in my head. And then when I sit down and finally do it, then it's like, boom, I'm doing it. And so like I operate on that level all the time. Yeah. That's me.
Yeah, but I figured that out. I grew up always like, why, Brittany, you procrastinate. Or even some people like, oh, you're lazy. And I'm like, really don't think I'm lazy. But, you hear that. And then it was like last month and I was working with a coach and she's like, you're not procrastinating. She goes, you can't do the project sooner because your brain is finding the best way for you to be the most creative and to do it the best way. That's why you go in a zone. You get into that crunch and your brain has it timed perfectly. If you need, 32 hours and 6 minutes and your brain knows it. So it was kind of a relief. I was like, you're right. It's just the way my brain works.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to look at it. I'm gonna have to think about it like and view it through that lens, like going forward, because I did like kind of look at it as I'm a procrastinator. And I kind of like excused it by saying like I got so many things to do, but you're completely right. Like I am like thinking about it. It's not like I'm just like not even thinking about it, and it's just like off somewhere like gathering dust. Like I'm thinking about it in my head, and then when I sit down to do it, like I'm kind of like applying all that stuff I've been kind of thinking about in the background.
Oh yeah. You're basically your brain is processing In the background, it's rendering those files, and it's like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this. And then when it's go time, it's like drop everything and you're gonna focus until you get that done. It still wants to about kill you though, but it's not laziness. She also said that I thought this was interesting. We have two modes in our brain, and that to be creative and really use our brain full on for that processing, we actually require tasks that are mindless. So like, how if you're supposed to be doing something, you'll start procrastinating. It's like, I should do the dishes or organize this cabinet or go mow the yard. And we're procrastinating. It's not. Your brain needs you to go and do something where it can kick off because it knows how to do this. It's routine. And because it activates a different mode in your brain, and it lets you put more resources on the creative part. So actually, even then, you're working on two projects at once. It's just your brain needs you to give it that space. That's kind of cool. I'm going to have to be less mean to myself.
Yeah, that's like a totally different perspective. Like I had been hard on myself before, like about procrastinating and not like starting early and kind of getting a head start on stuff. But I mean, I work most efficiently like under pressure, it feels like. And one of the things that I do, like in terms of like procrastinating or like kind of like doing like that routine thing, is like I'll hop in the snake room and like clean up some stuff. Like, yeah, I need to clean some tubs.
Yeah, and it's because your brain just kicks off. And that's why, people laugh and they're like, "Oh, I come up with my best ideas in the shower." Well, duh, because you're went into a routine task that doesn't require you to put any creative power in it. So your brain literally is like getting to put a ton of processing power on the other projects. So it's kind of neat. And you can, if anybody's listening, you can a little bit find ways to work it. And they call it boom and bust, because I always felt like I was procrastinating. And then I would do a boom, like for 6 days, I'm going to work around the clock, and then I'm going to bust because I'm exhausted. So the idea is to schedule the boom. So don't say every day this month, I'm going to work 30 minutes on this project. Yeah, try if you can, but don't make yourself feel guilty. Let your brain work in the background, and then just make sure that you're not putting stuff on your schedule that week, because we tend to be like, oh yeah, I could totally get that done. And try to keep that week that you're going to boom, you're going to procrastinate or you're going to wait because your brain is working, and just try to make that week light on other things so that you can focus on that project without killing yourself.
Gotcha.
That's the week you eat out. That's the week you eat out, you use those gift cards.
Yeah.
Just take as much off your plate as you can, and then roll with it and be like, here we go. This is the boom. Look at it as a positive versus like, oh no, I procrastinated and now it's going to be, no, make it a little bit more, easy and fun.
Okay. And who was it that kind of gave you this different like perspective on it? Who'd you say?
I work with an ADHD coach, Eliza Barak in New York, and so she told me it's not procrastinating. She goes, it can be. Yes, we all do it. Our doom swiping or doom scrolling on Facebook and stuff. But even then, sometimes that's actually just your brain going into that mode so that you can think. The boomer bust was another ADHDer. She went on a podcast and she was going to talk about breaking the cycle. And they're like, so how do we break it? And she's like, you don't. You make it easier. And she goes, and I schedule it. And she goes, now it's like once a month I plan this week. And I'm like, that's a totally different way. We're told that all our brains, we're supposed to have a schedule. We're supposed to work on routine. But the reality is we're all different and our brains don't all work the same way. And we could be making things harder on ourselves and not even reaching our full potential by trying to push ourselves into this mold of, what we're told.
Yeah, that doesn't really work for you. So you might as well lean into what works for you and maximize that.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
It's a learning process. I'm having to unlearn behaviors now, and that's not fun.
Definitely. All right, so I do want to talk about kind of like one of the things that has you busy this week, and you mentioned it before, is you had two writing deadlines. So I do want to hop right into the writing. So paranormal, reverse, harem, romance author. So break that down for us and speak a little bit about what inspired you to become a writer and kind of like how you came to leaning towards that concept of like a paranormal shifter, reverse harem novel kind of thing. So talk a little bit about that.
All right. So when I get bored, I find new hobbies. And about 2011, 2013, I can't remember now. I thought, you know what? I've always loved the idea of writing a book. I'm going to start writing. And there's a website called Wattpad. Back in the day, you would do it like a TV show. You'd put like a chapter every couple of days, and you'd have readers that would support you. And I did it for like a year and a half, put up about half of a book. And then I forgot about it because, life and all that. And Johnny was always teasing me. He's like, why are you wasting time? You think that's ever going to be anything? And I'm like, it's a relief. It's just a relaxation thing. And then at the end of 2020, like October 2020, I logged in because I was getting a message there. And I was like, well, that's really weird. And I logged in. I had a message from someone saying, if you don't finish this book, I'm going to kill you. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of, but
a little bit over the top.
yeah, a little dramatic. But it said I had 185,000 reads on half a book. And so I turned it to Johnny. I'm slightly competitive with myself and him. And so I turned it, I was like, in your face, I can write. And but he looks at it and goes, 185,000 people. If each of them paid $1, that would be $185,000. He goes, what do you need to finish that book? And I was like, a laptop. So I got a little setup going, and then still though didn't have the time because you think, oh, I'll start it tomorrow. And I was also hyper focusing. Like I need to learn how to write all the things, all the different ways. And so I went about several months where I was just researching. And he's finally like, well, are you going to ever write, or are you going to actually just keep learning how to write for the rest of your life? And I kind of got a little bit like, oh, fine, I'll show you. And I finished the book in 3 weeks and published it in February of 2021.
Okay.
And that book is now a trilogy. I finished it that year, put all 3 books out.
And what's the name of it again?
It's called The Dragon Goddess, Unexpected Mate.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, it was a learning experience. I was still finding my voice, so it's not my favorite series, but I won't take it down because it makes money. So it'd be kind of dumb to take it down.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So from there, it was like, okay, I'm kind of getting the flow, and then I had these different ideas. And now I bounce between series. As far as why, one, I write paranormal because I love not having to stick to the rules. You don't have to, like, if you write historical, I love history. I absolutely love history. And I'm a huge thriller suspense person. Like, that is my favorite genre. But it is not great if you're trying to write suspense and you like start cracking jokes over a dead body. So I don't think that's going to work for me. And I can't remember diddly squat. So I need a world where if I don't remember something, I can make it up. And if somebody's like, you said it wrong, I'm like, it's magic. So I went with the paranormal. I love dragons. I love, the shifter concept. I like having a species where you can create a different world and different personalities. I like that. The reverse harem part was actually marketing. I was seeing that a lot of the authors in the groups that were making really, they were getting their names found quicker, were authors that were writing reverse harem because it's a smaller group within the romance, but those readers are obsessive. They want it so much, they will read you even if you're brand new.
Oh, wow.
And so that was like, okay, I can work with that. And so now I'm actually I've started moving into, your typical male, female, not a reverse harem, because that's what I would prefer to write. I still write a mix of things, but so that's kind of how it ended up there, was marketing.
So for the benefit of folks that don't know, I had to look it up and like do a little bit of research on it myself. But for the benefit of those that don't know, can you define reverse harem?
Okay, so for those of you who know what a harem is, the guy has a bunch of girls, it's the opposite, and the girl has a bunch of guys. That's another reason why I write paranormal, because if you spin the story, you could say, oh, she's an endangered species, like she's a dragon shifter and she needs protection. You can kind of bend the storyline, right? I couldn't write contemporary, which is based in this world, without magic, because I'd be like, there isn't a single woman on earth who would live with 6 men. I don't care what they say. They'd be like, no. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a fun, I liked it. I bounced between ideas, so it was fun to have a bunch of different characters to play around with. So I think I have like 5 series that are reverse harem, and now I'm starting to do some male female
Now you're venturing
once,
out. Okay.
and then next year I will be launching into a completely different genre. So
Oh, nice.
that's
Nice.
terrifying.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely want to touch on that. So, Ashley, let's touch on it right now. So, what genre are you launching into right now, if you don't mind disclosing it?
Oh, I don't mind.
Mhm.
They're called cozy mystery, and think of it like Murder She Wrote. So it's has that element of like there's that little bit of like there's a murder, you're figuring out who it is, you're scared you might die, that kind of thing, but not at like a police procedural. You know, I don't have to be a forensic pathologist and know all that information. It's a little more lighthearted. Um, you know, so you don't go in detail about the death. You just like trip over a body kind of thing. And I've been wanting to do this. I've had this planned actually since the month after I launched my first book. I was like, this is what I want to do. But I really, again, froze up. And it's like, you have to take that leap at some point. And it's scary because it's a different, I kind of have a feel for the world I'm in right now. And this is a totally different thing. It's a crazy idea. I'm doing, Johnny has so many weird, for those that don't know, my husband's a veterinarian, and he tells me all these wacky stories of like the craziest clients and just odd stuff. So the concept is, it's also paranormal. She's a vampire veterinarian and she sees regular animals in the front door, and she sees paranormal things like werewolves and stuff like that in the back. You know, instead of a lizard, she sees a dragon in the back and a bearded dragon up front. So it's just kind of a playful. Meanwhile, you know, they're tripping over a body at the dog park, and you know, she has to figure out why her client died, kind of thing. So it's crazy, but I'm really excited about it.
Gotcha. And so, like, going back to like the genres that you kind of like do on the regular now and that you're more comfortable with, do you get writer's block when you're trying to come up with stories for them? Or is it all kind of just like processing in your head and you kind of know what you're going to do when you sit down at the computer and you start typing it up and whatnot?
I know what I'm going to do the week before it's due.
Okay.
So I have an idea. I do start with a general idea, but I'm what's called a pantser. So you've got your plotters, and it's called a pants, like your pants. It's a pantser.
A pantser.
So you've got your plot. Yeah, you've got your plotters. They will write an outline that's like this thick. So it's detailed notes for every single chapter. And that's what you get told in like, if you go to college to get a degree, they're going to be like, here's how you do the perfect outline and all this stuff. And that's why I froze, because my brain was not functioning with this outline. And then I read from these, you know, authors who are 6-figure, 7-figure authors, and they're like, oh no, I never know what the end's going to be. I just start. You know, you have a general idea of the characters, where they're starting, where it's going to end, and then you just let the story roll. And that spoke to me, and I was like, you know what, let's just try it. And so I kind of just jumped in, and you know, sometimes I'll write a scene and it'll go a completely different direction, and I go, oh, gasp! I didn't see that coming, because my brain just decides to mess with me. But
nice.
Yeah. So
nice.
I mean, there's different. Again, it goes back to there's different ways our brains process.
Yeah. So I guess I can be labeled a pantser too. Like we were talking about before the show started. Like I like doing creative writing too. I used to do a lot more of it back in the day. I don't do as much of it now. Like most of the stuff that I write now is like for work and stuff like that. So it's not quite as creative. There's still like a slight creative element, but it's not the same thing like by any stretch. But even when I'm writing stuff for work, like I still get like writer's block. And part of it is because like I tend to judge stuff like as soon as I put it on paper or as soon as I type it, and so like that prevents me from like moving forward. So one of the things that I've been trying to learn to do and do a better job of is just like brain dump it and then come back and clean stuff up later. Because if I start like trying to critique it as it's coming out and trying to get like the perfect final draft as it's coming out, then that inhibits like the creative process and I can't really like get anything out. So like brain dumping works for me. That's kind of like my strategy. But yeah.
Oh yeah, a lot of authors do that. And two techniques, if somebody else is listening, two techniques that can sometimes help is you can dictate. So when I am writing clean, when I'm just writing on my screen, trying to write as clean as possible, most days I'm doing around 1,000, 1,200 words an hour. But if I dictate, so I just walk, I just take off and start walking and I record. And if I do that, I can do sometimes 6,000 words an hour, because I can't see it. So I can't nitpick it. And then I can go and if you go on Microsoft Word, there's actually the option to transcribe for free. You can upload your file and it'll transcribe it. It's not perfect, but your words are there and you can work with them. So that's a quick way to get the words out without judging yourself.
Gotcha.
And not freezing up. Because sometimes you see that page and then you're like, it needs to sound perfect and that sounds stupid. That cuts that off because you can't see it, you can't fix it. And there are actually also writing softwares that make your words disappear. That panics me. I can't use it because I'm like, oh, where did they go? Where did they go? It's like Dory off of Nemo. I freak out. But it lets you have like 3 lines and then they disappear. They just slowly fade as you write. And that way you can't get distracted by going back and rereading and you can get more words in. So there's some cool tools if you ever, want to give it a try, but
yeah, that's
different
like the
brains.
way yeah, different brains. Like the way I kind of like made it make sense in my head is that I can't be in like creative mode and like proofreader / editor mode at the same time. Like, which one are you gonna do? And so like I've been trying to like really like make a concerted effort to like just get it out and then clean it up later. It's actually a much quicker process than trying to like get it out, make it perfect, and then finish it. Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, for sure. And if you like games, I like gamified things. Sometimes I'll alternate between things so it's less boring. Because let's be real, any task that you have to sit and do for hours eventually gets boring. But there's a thing called the number 4, for the words, and it's built like a video game. And you go on little missions. And so it'll be like, you can beat this monster. So if you write 300 words in 15 minutes, you win and you can make potions and things like that. It's really silly. I don't always play the full game, but having that timer and like, oh, I need to like it's something. Sometimes it'll just set something off and I stop criticizing myself because it's like, well, if I stop to fix that, there's no way I'm going to get the words. So it's a fun thing. It's a really cool little program. And, if you have friends that, are doing the same thing, a lot of us will go in there and like sprint together. So be like, okay, let's go on a mission. And you're literally just writing. You can't see what each other's writing. So you don't have to worry about being criticized. It just shows your overall word count. But it's kind of cool. Fun tools. Got to change it up.
Yeah, anything to keep it interesting and keep it fun and keep you being productive. So do you have like a favorite author or a favorite book that really influenced your writing style? Or is it just all like your own?
I think my writing style was kind of weirdly my own for the most part. It's just like that quirkiness of, this is crazy. No one's going to read it, but I don't care. And then they're like reading it. They're like, I relate to this. And I'm like, great. We're all a bunch of weirdos then. Like I'll be like, Johnny, I had this great idea. And he's like, yeah, I know, honey. I know. He's tired of the ideas. I do. There's a romance author, and she wrote. It's called Cupidity, like stupidity, but it's Cupids.
Okay.
And she is hilarious. Like her book series, and that was like where I realized you could be a little bit crazier. You don't have to stick to the rules, because that's another thing. If you are looking at ever trying to write. It's like you feel like, oh, well, if I'm going to write fantasy, I need to stick with Lord of the Rings. And it needs to be, no, it's your world. Do what you want. I mean, yeah, there's expectations from readers to some extent. But if you think about a lot of what's on TV, what gets made into movies, they're usually the ones that did something weird or something different or something shocking. So, use the base for your rules, and then what I tell people when they ask me for advice as far as how to be profitable as an author, research what's like the top 100 in whatever genre you're looking at. If you're looking, like I can tell you, I've been looking at children's books. I have 2 planned. I've been wanting to, I paint, so I want to illustrate them myself. That's why it's slow, because I don't have time. There are a lot of books about farting. Like I will just put that out there. They have a lot of ratings. They are bestsellers. So guess what one of my books is going to be about? Because it's going to show up as suggested on Amazon. And if that one gets suggested and somebody clicks on it, then Amazon's algorithm says, oh, so if they like that author, they like this author. So you want to build that algorithm to like you and like your books. So pick a subject you love, go with the basic rules, and they call them evergreens. So I know for a fact if I write a werewolf, people will like it. People love werewolves. They're never going away. Vampires and werewolves will always be there. So if a character in my book is a werewolf or a vampire, I can use that keyword on Amazon.
Gotcha.
And that's going to help me jump. But then the rest of the book, I can pick and make it a Kraken shifter if I want. And it's I'm going to write about Mothman, it's up to me what I want to write. But you want to make sure you don't go so far out in left field that you can't market it if that's your goal. If you're just writing for yourself, do what you want,
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So it seems like, so you've been doing it since what, 2020, 2021 ish?
2021, yeah.
2021. Okay. It seems like you've learned like a lot of like tips and tricks of the trade. Like, how did you go about educating yourself?
I hyper focus. When I go down a rabbit hole, I jump headfirst. And you won't see me for a while. And then I will know every fact about that thing fairly quickly. That one, Johnny loves it at times and hates it because we have like 600 spices. Because I was like, oh, but I've learned about 100 different types of chili. And he's like, but how many are we going to eat, honey? So that thirst for knowledge. No, I have that personality that I want to learn. I like to grow, but I'm also, like I said before, love to support people and encourage people, but I am hard on myself, like so hard. I have bad imposter syndrome and I struggle with self-confidence. And so for me, I'm always competitive with myself. So if I did this book and I did it this well, then how could I do that one better the next time and then better the next time? Which is great to some extent, but at some point you have to learn to also celebrate your victories. And I'm not very good about that. I'm always looking at, well, yeah, that's great, but you could have done it better. Try better next time. That's my own like demon I have to fight or whatever. So for me, I learned oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, have you always been like that, or was that something that developed over time?
I think a little bit it developed over time. As a kid, I was always like a people pleaser. I wanted to make people happy. And when I did well, it was like, oh, made dad so proud. And, you did this and, oh, you can learn this language and you get a lot of that. And it was all positive, not like anything bad. I'm not complaining or, like, oh, woe is me. But I think because I have the type of personality that I can't stand conflict and I just want people to be happy and I will go out of my way to try to make sure people around me are happy. I think somehow that I internalized it to where you should do better. There's a way to do this better. You could, and that monologue has just, it turned into that. And that's actually why I work with the coach, is because she'll stop me and I'll be like, yeah, I've got to do this and this. And she's like, and what happened last week? And I'm like, well, I hit this many million reads. And she's like, and what did you do to celebrate? And I'm so confused. I'm like, I ordered pizza. Does that count? And she's like, no, that does not count. So now I make stuff up. I tell her that I celebrated. I was like, I went online and bought spices. No. Yeah. So I'm learning to slow down and stop hounding myself. And some of that has actually been, you said, how did I learn? There's a Facebook group that's awesome if you're looking at writing. It's called 20 Books to 50K. The original idea was if you wrote 20 books, you could make 50,000 a year. If you hit, certain markers, etc. That group, all these big authors, some of our 7-figure authors, are sharing their tips. Like, these are the things that are hot. This worked for me. This newsletter worked for me. This style. So you can learn a lot in there. And, I've shared my stuff in there and a lot of people are like, oh, we look up to you. But what was happening was I was seeing people's posts and my brain was like, you should do that. You should do that better than yourself, not them. I'm very supportive of them, but my brain was like, oh, you were lazy. You only put out 3 books in the last 3 months. That person did 6. Get on with it. Well, that person also isn't raising snakes and homeschooling 3 kids, but my brain isn't always logical. It just wants to push me to. So I actually have to unfollow some things just to make sure that my mind stays in a mental place where I'm not hard on me. Like, I can be happy with where I'm at.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
I don't know if that makes sense. It sounds weird. I know.
It does. No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So what would you say the most rewarding thing about writing is for you?
I think it's honestly the messages that I get. I grew up in the sticks. To get TV, we had to like balance sideways and, walk like an Egyptian with the antenna to get PBS. So We weren't exactly getting cable. I don't know a lot of celebrities. I like the Marvel movies. I like action movies, but I don't know a lot of the people. Um, for me, it was books. I volunteered at a library. I read hundreds and hundreds of books. I loved books. Those authors were my celebrities. They were my heroes. They were, to me, it was this exotic thing. Like, you could never be an author because an author is, like, oh. And now I'm somebody's favorite author. And that is just the most insane thing to realize. And I get messages, and I had one message me, and apparently her son got diagnosed with cancer, and they've been spending like the last several weeks with him in the hospital. And she said, I just want you to know, I've just been like a zombie. Like, I have been crying. It's been really tough. And she said, I had a few hours at home and I didn't want to be by myself. And she said, so I opened your book because people said it was funny and it'd make you laugh. And she said, I laughed until I cried, and I cried until I laughed. And she said, God knew that I needed that at that moment. And I need you to know. And it was like the whole work of writing that book and everything. If she was the only person that read that book, that meant the world to me. Yeah.
That's
So
powerful.
that's cool. Yeah. That's the part I like the best.
Nice. Yeah, that's powerful. That's dope. That's got to be a really, really good feeling. So I can see why that's the part that you like the best.
Yeah.
So what advice, wrapping up kind of the book subject, what advice would you give like folks who want to aspire to write books and whatnot and become like a published author?
My favorite answer to this is get out a bottle of glue and glue your butt to the seat, because I can tell you that is the thing that is standing in so many people's way. Like, I'm friends with so many big, successful six-figure authors, and they all had the same thing. They initially took years to get the first one out. Once the first one's out, you can kind of start rolling, but it's that your mental block. Like, I don't think I'm ready yet. I don't think I could do it. I'll get to it at some point. Sit down and just do it. Like, as hard as it is, be like, I won't get out of this chair for the next hour. So either I write or I don't, but I'm not going to let myself check my phone. I'm not going to give that time to anything else. I'm going to do it. Sit down and just start, because every word you write is a word closer to being that author that you're hoping to be. You just have to actually start. Other than that, I would say the biggest thing that helped me was actually the Facebook group, the 20 books to 50K, because there's so much advice and encouragement there. As far as, like, you'll see a new author come in, and in all different genres, not just romance, and they'll be like, I'm really excited. I launched my new book. And then they blow up. And it's like, well, this is how I did my newsletter, and here's how I spaced my releases. And there's a lot of good information. So just lurk, just go in that group and lurk and kind of start, seeing it, and it will be encouraging. You'll be like, hey, if they could do it, I could do this too. And it gets you excited. That's why isn't that why we love like the reptile community, is because it's like, we love our snakes. We love doing our thing, but there's something about getting fired up when you go to a show and you see what people have made, or you're watching, these shows. And, part of it is people encourage people. We help lift each other up. We set each other on fire. Not in a bad way, like the good way.
The good way, yeah. I know what you mean.
But setting on fire is bad. Don't quote me badly.
So you touched on something in that, and you spoke about like getting inspired by six-figure authors, and you're a six-figure author now too, right?
Yeah. I've made six figures 2 years in a row, and I just hit around 450,000, I think.
Nice.
With audiobooks, because I do audiobooks now too. So 450 since February 21. So you can do it too. Yeah. And I will say one thing: if you write the first one, it doesn't take off, don't stop there. There are series that don't hit until the 9th book, and then they become a series that blows up and they get movie deals, and nobody noticed it until the 9th book. And for me, mine took off with my 3rd book. I was doing okay. I was making like, $600 to $1,000, which is great a month on my first 2. But when the 3rd one came out, and now I had 2 different series, so maybe this idea sucked the reader in, and then they read the other one because they liked it. So now I'm like pulling readers through it. When I had those 2 series that I could bounce people between, that's where things really took off. So a lot of advice out there will tell you to stick to one idea and follow it through. And there are people that have been very successful at that. But that doesn't mean you can't be successful at having the attention span of a squirrel like me and just jumping from topic to topic.
And how many books have you written?
The one I uploaded tonight, like I literally uploaded it 40 minutes before I would have been locked out for the pre-order because you have to get the manuscript in. That was tonight. That would be the 16th book or 17th if you count. I did a sci-fi co-write with someone recently. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That's a lot of success, and that's pretty cool. That's a good story to tell and talk about.
Yeah. Pick a healthier pace, people. This is not healthy.
So how do you balance like writing, family life, and then taking care of like because you got like a lot of animals, so a pretty diverse collection of animals. How do you balance all that? And what's your secret?
So what does this word balance mean?
What do you mean?
What is this? This is an interesting word. One, I have a lot of help. Two, I made my husband retire so I could put him to work. No, Johnny, man, he's a lifesaver. Like, I mean, he's like, babe, you haven't ate. You need to eat now. So I do have his help a lot. And my mother-in-law actually moved in with us. So she's helping, she helps with like the laundry. And so there's like, I do have help. I'm not doing all this by myself. It's like with the reptiles, we do all the, what's going to breed what, when the eggs hatch, I do the photos. But he does a lot of like listing them actually on the website. Like after I do the photos, put them up, and he does a lot of the feeding. I've done I did like so much cleaning that the snakes, people that say snakes don't know your scent, are like not very, like for mine, it doesn't work that way. Mine got to the point to where they were so used to me being the one that was coming in and cleaning that they would I would come in the room, they would go curl up in the back and they wouldn't eat because they were like, oh no, here comes the chick that's going to pull us out. Cause I'm clean, scraping the sides and they're like, nope, we're done. So we started realizing that we had a better feed rate if I didn't go in the room the day that he feeds, because they know him as, that's the rat guy, he's going to feed us. She's going to touch us. So, then I
would never even thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, not everybody, if it's not two people working it, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But we were like, 1 week it'd be great. And then 1 week it'd be bad. And 1 week it'd be great. We're like, what's going on? And then, but I was going in, when we were doing that, I was going in 2 or 3 times a week, spot cleaning. So I was constantly, I guess, aggravating, not on purpose. It wasn't like, it's just cleaning,
Trying to keep him clean. Good husband.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so it's fine. I guess we're good cop, bad cop or something, Here
comes the toucher.
Yeah. Oh no. She's going to say we're cute and take a picture.
So you got 3 kids?
3 kids, 15, 11, and 9.
Okay.
We said birthdays. I always have to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Keep me busy.
I think about birthdays too, and then when we get close to a birthday or right after a birthday, it definitely have to think about it too. So, do your kids help out like with the reptiles and whatnot?
They do a little bit. We're trying to, how some parents will push their kids into doing stuff because they do it, and we didn't want to be those parents. If they want to be involved, we absolutely want them involved. And of course, they have their normal chores, but we don't want them to be like, when I was growing up, mom and dad, they, made me do. We're not doing that. They love reptiles. They're not afraid of them. My oldest daughter, actually, we hired her, so she does the rodents. So we raise our own rodents, and she does all the cleaning and feeding as her job. And occasionally we have to correct things because it's not done quite as well, but that's part of training.
Right.
And the 2 younger ones are definitely interested, but it kind of goes back to what we talked about with me. They're high energy. So they go in there, they're banging and making racket. And, if you've got snakes that you're trying to lock, or you've got snakes that you're trying to eat, it's like, okay, maybe don't come in today.
So what all species do y'all keep? Reptiles, mammals, everything?
So on the reptiles, we have a few boas. We have the blood pythons. We have the ball pythons, and the hognose are the main ones. We have a couple of the green baron racers. Well, they're blue. Okay. They're the blue phase Barron's racers, and a couple of rainbow boas. Those would be, most of our snakes. I have a couple pet tree frogs. My son has a pixie toad. A pixie frog. He's like, we go into a show. I'll be honest, I thought that thing was probably beef jerky because we got it. It was like this big at a show, and I hadn't really seen it. And he's like 8, like I get them if they say they need food or whatever. We set up the tank, but I hadn't really heard him talk about it. I didn't know if it, whatever. He comes in my room like I guess a couple months ago. He's had it a year. He comes in there. This thing is this big. And he's like, look, Mom. And it's like, Rah! He's like, it eats mice now. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, so we have a really big pixie toad. As far as the mammals, we have the emu bird, and we have goats. We have the fainting goats that, pass out. We have a lot of chickens. We have turkeys because our name is Gobble. You kind of have to have turkeys.
You gotta have turkeys.
You gotta have turkeys. No. I have an Arctic fox. My pet Arctic fox. Of course, the usual cats, dog. It's a zoo here.
A lot. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, that's a lot to keep up with too.
Yeah. So it's divided though. Like different family members have different tasks. Gotcha. So it's like, there's like 2 animals that each person is checking in on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You said fainting goats?
Yeah. So have you heard of fainting goats?
I have not.
Okay. So do you know what narcolepsy is?
Yeah.
Okay. I have narcolepsy, which makes this even funnier. So fainting goats have cataplexy when they get surprised. And originally the concept was that you would keep a fainting goat with your flock of really expensive goats or sheep. Because if a predator like a coyote tried to come for them, they would run and that one would fall over because it got excited. And their legs get stiff as a board. Like they look like they have rigor mortis. And so they get real stiff and they just fall over. And then a couple seconds later, they get up and, they're fine. They walk on. And the coyote would get that one, which was a cheaper one. So that was originally kind of the concept. Now they're just hilarious because they'll go to like jump up on a log and then they just freeze up and fall over. I got paid back. Like we went to give him vaccines the other day and he's like, just grab them. And we lunged and it was like dominoes. Like, this is awesome.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You got any videos of that?
Oh, I'll have to send you one. Yeah, okay, I got some funny ones.
I definitely
they're
hilarious. Yeah, I have to check it out. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. Yeah, so I learned something new. I learned a lot new so far. Yeah, for sure.
It's funny. It's funny. Well, we got them, and then they thought I had something called hypersomnia, idiopathic hypersomnia. So it's like you never wake up. You're always partially asleep. And then I started having cataplexy, and they're like, that's narcolepsy. And I was like, oh, great. So I just got my diagnosis earlier this year. They suspected it for longer. And so I have cataplexy, and like my family is cracking up because most people, like if you watch a lot of documentaries, narcolepsy happens when you get excited, right? And I haven't actually told this story on Facebook yet, so you're getting to hear it first. I usually do story time and tell dumb stories. This is when I was planning, but I hadn't told yet. So for a lot of people, the trigger's laughter. And you may have seen like YouTube videos where they'll tickle people and then they kind of pass out. Or it's excitement. So you see the people that get on the roller coasters and they'll pass out and then they open their eyes and they realize they're still falling. And then they go, so they're having cataplexy, a cataplectic episode. Well, I was like, no, I feel weird, but I couldn't figure out what the trigger was. Like, why do I randomly, I'm like happy and fine. And then I'm like down. And I'm like, what is going on? And I figured it out. One of my main triggers is actually being angry. And I don't get angry very often. So we didn't realize it. And so I was sitting there and I realized that that's why Johnny was winning arguments. Because we'd be like talking, like having a disagreement. He's like, well, I really wish you would do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like being very patient. I'm a patient person. And I'm like, I'll let him say his piece, right? And like, then I can say, well, this is how I feel about it. So I'm listening, but I'm getting irritated. And it takes a lot to get me irritated. And so I'm sitting there listening to him. I'm getting irritated. And then he's like, so I just want you to know, it's fine, but that's how I felt about it. And he starts to leave the room, right? And I open my mouth and I'm going to be like, you come back here. It's my turn. I listened and now it's my turn. And nothing came out. And I was like, no, but nothing was coming out. And the next thing I know, I'm out cold, right?
Oh, wow.
Well, it happened like 4 times. over several months. And each time I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I was cranky because I needed a nap.
Oh wow.
I didn't realize my body was shutting down because I was getting upset.
So has it ever happened in a dangerous situation?
Not in a dangerous, probably the worst. I've had to leave restaurants because I got excited about my food, which is embarrassing. I was like, yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
They said it in front of me, and then I was like, oh wow, I feel really weird. And I was like, I need the keys, honey. I need the keys. And then I go to the car and pass out. The worst is the airport. I've had 2 episodes at the airport, and one was recently coming home, and they had said you have to pay extra to take your bag on. So I paid extra, and at the gate they're like, no, never mind, you can't have your bag. So you have to take all your stuff out. So while they're loading, people are like stepping around us. I'm having to take my camera batteries out. I'm having to take medication, and it was a frustrating situation.
Oh yeah.
So I got on the plane and I had plans to like do my work, and instead I was like, and I woke up about 45 minutes later. And I was like, and the people are looking at me because it's fast. Like you have a couple minutes of knowing you're about to go down in most cases.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was inconvenient, not necessarily dangerous.
Gotcha.
You know, it could have been bad, I suppose, if I passed out before I got on the plane.
Yeah. Or like if you're like driving or something and something like that happened, like that would be terrible, catastrophic.
They portray narcolepsy a lot in like the media as being an instantaneous, like you're awake and then you're not. But in reality, there are varying degrees. So you can have where it's complete, you're out. You can also have where you just lose your muscle tone and you are still very much awake, but you don't look awake. So you know what's going on. I've had that happen before. But a lot of times you can feel it coming. So you get that like,
I gotta go chill.
Yeah, I need to get a seat somewhere. I probably don't need to be swallowing food because I'll start losing the ability to like control my throat. Yeah, it's definitely taken a little bit. You know, there's been some funnies. We went to Utah 2 weeks ago, and we got on a road we weren't supposed to be on that came down the side of a mountain, and we were supposed to have 4-wheel drive for this road. Once we got on the road, you couldn't see the road, so you couldn't back up. You just had to keep going, and there's no railing. It's like single road, and you're just going down the side of this cliff. And it was so high up. And so I got really excited. I was like, oh man, this is not good. There's like ice on this road, okay? Which is not what you want to see when you're on top of a cliff like the Grand Canyon, right? I got excited and I took a picture, and then I got too excited. And next thing I was like slumped in my seat. And my siblings are like, Brittany, are you okay? And then a couple seconds later, I'm back together and I'm like, but look how tall it is. And then I'm like, it was like an hour right down that mountain, and they were like howling. They could not stop because they were like, she's up, she's down, she's up. Because every time they say, stop looking out the window, Brittany. So yeah, but I told Johnny, because when he was making mad, I said, God did me dirty, man. Like I should be able to have a disagreement with you without passing out. And he goes, God is working on your patience. And I said, I'm not the one with a temper problem. He goes, oh, God is working on my patience. And I'm like, that is so wrong. I go to my doctor and tell him, and he just starts laughing. And I'm like, I think your bedside manner needs work.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So in terms of the reptiles, like, are you just breeding the ball pythons, or are you breeding other species too?
I actually last week got my very first clutch of blood python eggs. So I'm crazy excited about that. Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, it was. And then we got them, and then me and Johnny are looking at each other, and we were like, yeah, and now we have to get them from her. But turns out they were easier to get the eggs from her than it is to get it from some of the ball pythons.
Oh, really? So she was pretty chill?
Oh, yeah. She just like would let us lift her out. And I was like, okay, that went better than expected. So,
okay, that's what's up.
I think I got like 14 eggs. 2 look like they're not good, but the other ones look really good. So I'm excited about that.
What's the incubation period for those?
Yeah, see, I don't remember. I think it's about the same.
Okay.
I have it written down because I don't remember numbers very well. So I have to write all the numbers down. We do a lot of hognose. Actually, for the past few years, our hognose had done better than our ball pythons as far as like people want to ask about like investments, what makes more money. We actually did better on the hognose, but so now we have the hognose going still again this year, and then this year is kind of exciting because when we started with the ball pythons, we kind of went straight into recessives, a lot of recessives. So you got your double recessives, your triple recessives, and we're finally getting to pair those. So, I'm sure it's going to be a frustrating year of like, the statistics didn't work, but I might get lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, some stuff will work. Like you'll miss on some stuff, you'll hit on others. And
Yeah.
I
got my
imagine.
first clutch. So I don't know. Do you know the Monsoon gene?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So I bought a full Monsoon girl. I think like the year after he started releasing them,
Okay.
and she had absorbed in the past, but yesterday I think it was she gave me 11 eggs. So that was
Oh,
pretty
nice.
exciting.
What'd you pair
And
it with?
it is a Wookiee Het Monsoon. So
Okay.
I'm
Nice.
like, I'm really hopeful.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
Nice
hit
to
one
meet you,
and not get
Monsoon.
Mojave in it. No Mojave, no Mojave. I like Mojave, people. Don't come at me later in the comments. It's just, if you know about Monsoon, there's a lot of Mojave in the Monsoon. I just like to, have some other stuff.
Gotcha. So what all recesses are you working outside of Monsoon?
I have a lot with the Monsoon. So like one of the projects is the Hypo Clown Monsoon I'm trying to hit. So trying to hit triple recessive there. I started working a lot more with the SK Xanthic from JD because I love JD and I love JD's line. So we kind of started doing more projects with that. We have the Orange Crush, which is a kind of, it's not as big of a gene, but we're pretty excited about it. I think it's going to do some cool stuff. Trying to think, we have a couple other. We have a Sunset and a few other. What
do you think about that spot nose sunset clown, Justin Hatch?
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Isn't
I like
it
it.
gorgeous? Yeah, the Sunset took a long time to grow on me, to be honest. I think it's an interesting snake. I just didn't love the brown tones. Like I felt like it needed more of a punch. And then was it Brad? I think. Maybe Brad Boa, if I'm right, made the Sunset. That was the lavender albino.
I haven't seen that one. I have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Anyways, it was like red. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm looking for. So I actually got my girl because I've been noticing that with the Monsoon, some of the combinations people have made, that if you look, there's kind of a little bit, in my opinion, almost like a bronze to their coloration, a little bit of a red tone. So like TJ made the Mandarin Monsoon, and it had a little bit more of that red, that like, that beautiful fall burnt red color. And my thought was, I'd like to see if that carried through with the Sunset. Would it help the Sunset keep a little bit more of the red tones if the Monsoon, enhance that even a little bit? I don't know, just an experiment, but
Gotcha.
I think we'll start seeing more Sunset. That's really cool. Now that, again, being recessive, now that people are coming out with stuff that they're making. I think just like as a base morph, I think it needs a wingman to kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But the dopest Sunset combo that I've seen like so far was that spot nose Sunset clown. Like I really like that. And I was like, okay.
I wonder how many of us ran into Morph Market after that.
It's like, okay, I see what we're doing here now. I did like that one. And then speaking of genes I like, so this isn't the recessive, but one of the genes that I really like, and I spoke about it on the show before, is that Cosmos gene.
Yes,
That's
I
nice.
love
I know
the
it's a
Cosmos.
lot of people like the Cosmos gene.
Oh yeah, we've been excited about it. So we had our first clutch late last year and got some really neat combos out of that. And then the one is like coming up to size, so she's almost there. That's the Clown Cosmos, and I'm breeding her with an SK Clown from JD because I really see, and it's a clean one. Like I really told JD, I'm like, okay, listen, I want a dirty clown. Like, I know people go to clown because they want a reduced pattern, but that's not what I was looking for. I wanted that contrast. The clown gives that crazy contrast, and I wanted that cleans the bright sides because I wanted to brighten the Cosmos so you could see that background. But I didn't want to take away any more than I had to from the pattern. So we were at a show and he had like several male clown out there. And I'm like, this is what I want. So he stood there. He was so nice. He stood there and he's like, so what do you think? And I'm like, well, I like this one's sides and this one. And he helped me pick the one that he thought would meet what I was looking for. So I know it'll be a little bit, but I am very excited about that. Also been working the Desert Ghost into it. Again,
Okay.
I just think that brightening those sides up, but not lightening the pattern. It like the, that pixelated, messy pattern, I think that's the way I'm excited to see it. I just want to display that better.
Yeah, that's a nice genius. I saw like, because I'm in that group, the Cosmos group, where he shares like a lot of pictures of the different ones. You're admin in there too, I think. Right?
Yeah. I set it up.
Okay. Yeah. So you like the OG admin in there. But yeah, it's a lot of
I like it. I like that because for me, I'm a visual person. And so you can tell me what a clown does, but I need you to show me what a clown does. When we did cats, we did genetics, and my husband would be like, okay, this gene is recessive and this gene, and he would explain all these things and this color masks this. And I would like, technically I have the intelligence to logically understand, but it didn't stick. And then I'm not going to lie, it's so embarrassing. I still have it somewhere. He drew a rainbow. And he's like, this color masks this color. And he drew me the stupidest rainbow being a smart aleck. And it all clicked. And after that, I became this guru. And people would message me from around the world. Can you ID my cats? And I'd be like, that's not possible. That's the wrong dad. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, that dad couldn't have been the dad of those kittens. And they'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And they'd come back and be like, so my cleaning lady just admitted that the male got loose and she put him in. I was like, I told you. Like, I could tell you what you had based on what the parents, like what one parent was. I'd be like, the daddy's a red cat. He ain't no black cat, or whatever, but I need that visual. I need that graphic to see it. So doing the Cosmos group is because it's great. You go to Morph Market and you see a Cosmos or whatever, like once they get there. Oh, I like that. But to be able to really understand how a gene works, you need to be able to go to a group where you don't have to sort through a billion posts of all the morphs. This is my opinion. So you can say, okay, wow, so this is what it did with clown. This is what it did with pastel. That way you can build an idea, because how else are you supposed to be like, you know what, I would love to see that in sunset, if you don't really know how that gene is interacting with other genes. So exactly. I guess it's almost like a photo gallery, but
exactly,
that way other people can contribute too.
Yeah, and give you a little bit of something to work with in terms of like thinking through like how you want to or where you want to take it, right? So what's the plans for the Cosmos gene? Like, are you going to be releasing some of that anytime soon? I think
we're hoping to release this year.
Justin, right? Okay.
So we're hoping this year, if all goes well, we should have 2 clutches this year. So and like can't keep them all. So we definitely want to get them out there and stuff. So that's the plan. I didn't last year. We're still learning. And like 2 of them were ivories. So I don't want to sell them because I don't want to promise something that they're not, or mess up and send one out as an ivory. Because, that's like a big difference. It's not like it's a little difference. That's like $400. Right? So my thought process was I will just prove them out first,
Gotcha.
And prove it out. And then I don't actually need them, but I would rather be able to stand behind what I'm putting out there and say, I absolutely know this is what it produced, that kind of thing.
100%.
And we want people to be able to get involved. So we decided to just kind of wait to where hopefully we have, more than one. We could release several, and that way they could go into different hands and people could start doing some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. So that first girl y'all got a clutch from, she was a yellow belly Cosmos?
Yeah. Okay. Yellow belly Cosmos. And so the babies are Pos Het Hypo, Het Desert Ghost, and then we had I think it was Spot Nose and the Leopard. So kind of mixing around in there. So we got some funky ones for sure.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be really cool to. Yeah. I think it's gonna be a fun gene.
Yeah. I really like it. I really like what it does too. What's his name? Scott Foster, I think.
Oh yeah, I love Scott. He is the best. You see those memes he posts?
Yeah, he's probably gonna camp out waiting for the Cosmos gene from you when you release it.
He's hilarious. He's posting like the minions. My favorite was, so do you know the meme where the like person's playing with the kid in the pool and there's the other kid drowning in the front? And it says like Ralph playing with Brittany with the Cosmos, and then me over here. I was like, he is a character. Oh, I love him though. I love him.
Yeah. He's got some nice stuff he's working with too.
He's definitely got some cool stuff for sure.
But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing like what you produce with the Cosmos, and definitely looking forward to when you start releasing some of that. So what's your mindset when you're evaluating new projects? Is it just seeing them and seeing what they do, like you spoke to earlier, or are you like factoring in like some other kind of thought process into it?
I kind of think it's like a trickle down process. So number one, I want to like what I open the bin and see. So to me, that I know that is not a good business decision. So please don't take that as business advice. But like I have a super sulfur, which is not the most exciting gene in my collection at all. But that thing cracks me up because, like, if you haven't seen a super sulfur, for those that might not have, it's like a pied, but it's yellow and white. So she's got very yellow markings across her head. So it's like having a spotted dog, but it's a snake with yellow spots. And I'm putting her in some stuff that'll be fun. But I literally bought her because I wanted to open the bin and I wanted to see her. I have had Johnny, which he doesn't always love. I'm like, no, those need to go. And he's like, honey, those are snakes we could work with. And I'm like, nope, not really impressed with it. We need to put them up there for somebody who is impressed with them. If it doesn't excite me, if I don't want to open the bin, I like to clean, and every bin I open, I'm like, oh, this is my favorite. And then like, oh, this is my favorite too. I like that. I don't want to be like, and a normal and another normal. And a prettier normal and a spotted normal. So that's probably my first thing. And again, like I said, that's bad advice. But my first thing is, I do think you have to love your animals and love what you do. I don't want my first priority to be the money off of it anyways. Then it goes to the projects. I love genetics. I love the fun of figuring things out. That's why I got into the snakes to begin with, is I love the genetics of the cat. But we had we did a new breed, figured out the genetics, worked with a genetic lab to do the entire map the entire genome of this cat. Oh, nice. We did this stuff. Then we worked with the servals, which is, your African serval bred, your savannas, African serval bred to domestic, which is fun because there's a difference in chromosomes, which makes your F1 kittens the males are not fertile. So you're getting there's all this science. I love that. But then the challenge was gone, and cats are a little more high maintenance than a snake in most cases. Right. And we wanted to travel. My kids are getting bigger. So we started looking at the snakes, and I was like, I love genetics. I love figuring something out. Even if you figure out that that's a beautiful snake, but it's not, it's not going to produce itself. It's just a fluke, That's disappointing, but it's also still exciting because you got to figure that out. It was the puzzle, the excitement of seeing what's going to hatch. So for me, there's that excitement of the genes. So I'm looking, when I see a new gene, I am looking to see, okay, so how much do we know? What do we need to figure out? Where is that going to go? A big thing for me is if I have to cross my eyes to be like, oh, that's something, I don't want it. I'm not a good enough salesperson. I'm not good at pushing myself, and I want to be able to be like, look at this cool snake, and you'd be like, can I buy it? I'll be like, yes, that's my sales pitch. I don't want to be like, okay, put on these 3D glasses, and now you see the red.
Turn around in a circle. You see it?
This is the best eye stripe you will ever see on a snake. I don't want to have to sucker someone, and I'm saying that as a joke. I'm not, I don't want to have to give you an hour-long spiel about why you need this snake in your program. So if I'm going to work with a gene, I want to make sure that I can stand behind it, and I can legitimately tell my buyers, hey, this is something exciting, and here's why you want it. So that is part of it. I'll be honest, part of it's the community. If I've seen a couple genes I would love to have, but my goodness, the people, it's like little spats going on, and And one group is doing this and one group's doing that, and I don't need that chaos in my life. My life is chaotic enough. So there's been a couple genes, like I really wanted the trick, actually, the trick blitz hurricane thing. I really wanted the trick back in the day, and Johnny liked the hurricane, but there was so much chaos like over that it was just kind of put me off to stepping in that yet. Like
Gotcha.
let that settle out, and then I'll maybe circle back. I'd say those are my main things.
I'm gonna
When it
put you on
comes
the
to picking
spot. Do you think they're the same thing? What are your
I
thoughts?
do. I think that it's what is that, polygenes? So in tabby cats, I don't know if you all, so your tabby cat, you got your stripes, right? And
Mhm.
some tabby cats have spots. And some tabby cats have black stripes, but the tips are white, so they like look frosted. And then some are a mackerel, so they have like an M on their forehead. And then some have a swirl, and you've got these different patterns. But technically, it all boils down to the tabby gene. It's a variation on a gene. And there is a lot more to it. That's not a perfect example. It's just an example that I'm making. Is I
Mhm.
feel like with the trick blitz hurricane, and I actually feel the same way about the static confusion and now why am I blanking?
Acid.
What is it?
Acid.
What is the other one? Oh, acid. That's
Acid.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, that in both these cases that they are genetically compatible. But whether it's just that line is a little bit, you have people that have really blue eyes, like crazy blue eyes. Other people have blue eyes too. They just might not have that variety of blue eye. I think it's more like that. It's just a variation. So you can have a little bit cleaner, a little bit, less clean. Just my opinion, though.
Gotcha. Yeah. I agree. I think they are the same, and same thing with like static confusion and acid. I think they are the same. Like if I get it as a confusion, then what I produce, I'm gonna sell it as a confusion because that's
Right,
how I
right.
picked it up. But I do like think they are the same thing. And then I saw a video the other day or like a clip or something talking about enhancer and desert ghosts, and
They're the
they were
same.
talking about like the genetic testing with it and how like they're identifying them both at the same rate, and so it's not like fully conclusive evidence, but it is trending that
Right.
way that they are the same genes. And so like I think it's probably a lot of that that's out there, and we with the genetic testing it's going to start to uncover a lot of that, and so maybe it's settled like some of that squabbling and whatnot.
Yeah, I think so. I hope that it'll be a great tool, and I hope that people will use it more. Instead of being like, "Oh, I've got this new yellow belly or something." Like, well, no, actually, you could test it and have a quick answer. And I think we will find out that more. We did the Lycoid, the werewolf cats, right? That was the one I was talking about doing the DNA testing.
Mhm.
So in most cats or most things, you do a DNA test. Okay, yeah, it has this gene, right? Well, when they found the gene, so like in the Sphinx cat, there's a hairless gene, right? And they can test and they can tell you if it carries it or if it has two copies of the gene because it's recessive. So with the Lycoid, they were doing that. And there were natural mutations, which is where one just pops up in a feral colony in different places. So I flew to Canada and got some that popped up at a farm there, Utah, Arizona, California, Vermont. So I was
Oh,
getting these
wow.
different ones, and we would send these DNA samples off these cats to the lab. Or at some point, she'd just come and she would take samples too and do skin biopsies and things like that. But what was interesting is when it was all said and done, I believe it was 7. They found 7 on the same strand of DNA, 7 different genes that would create this pattern, this Lycoid, this wolf, this half coat thing, right? And they came to us and they asked us, they said, okay, we want you to decide. Do you want to say it? Technically, you could do like what the hairless. They have like your hairless and your Devon Rex. They're on that same strand. They could have technically been a haired version, 2 different coats of the same cat, but they chose to
Okay.
make it 2 different breeds. So they said, do you want like 7 different breeds, or do you want to call them all the same? And we said that we've been breeding them together, and they produce phenotypical kittens. So if you breed this one over here from Vermont to this one from Texas, it's a recessive. So these are both visual. They produce all visual babies. And we're like, if it walks like a duck and it
Yeah.
quacks like a duck, it's a
It's a
duck.
duck.
So we chose, we chose to have them label it as one breed that can have multiple genes. What was interesting in that is that the Texas one had a harder time because they lack an undercoat. So it gives them that like patchy wolfing out to a werewolf thing. It had the Texas would molt and it would go almost naked several times a year. Whereas the one that we picked up on a antique shop in South Carolina barely lost any hair. When we bred those two together, we got something in between. When we bred the more hairless to another one that was more hairless, the kittens barely could keep a coat. So what we were finding was, even though technically they all breed true when you breed them together, and you couldn't, look at them and tell a difference, there were variations still within that. And I think that's what we're going to find, like with the confusion, the blitz. I think it's that same thing, but there's variations. That's why I had a confusion. I still have confusion. But I had one clutch where it produced one of the best snakes I've ever seen. Definitely I think the static is the craziest one, in my opinion. I have confusion, but I love the static. I produced one that like
love like that.
I know, and I'm like, what's wrong with that? Because to me, I think 4 out of 5 times the really cool one is going to be a static. So I had clutches where I would have been like, man, that confusion is on par with what I've seen of statics. But then I had a clutch where I was like, okay, this is not even as good as most of the confusions I've seen. And then and it works both ways. I've seen statics that I was like, that's a static. And I've seen acids that I'm like, oh man, that is a sick acid. So, I think that we look at, as reptile breeders, a lot of times we tend to look at things as like black and white. It's recessive. It's dominant. I should get this. I will get that. There's a lot more to breeding, that those nuances of cleaner patterns and, a little bit brighter colors. It doesn't make it a new gene. It's just a variation within that gene.
Right. Yeah. 100%. 100%. So speaking of, how many clutches are y'all expecting this year?
I think just over 20.
Just over 20?
So it'll be our biggest year.
Okay,
yeah, we're tiny. I have last I counted about 150 ball pythons. So I'm a boutique. Like that's what I tell people. Like, it's like I have high-end animals. I love what I do. Not all of them, obviously. I have some that I just like because I like them. My goal was never to be huge. I wanted to be able to keep up with my collection or have Johnny cover for me when I'm on a book deadline because I have been off in La La Land. So I'm happy with that. But I just tried to make sure, because I don't have that many bins or space, that I just pack a punch with each animal.
So where you're at now in terms of like total number, is that like what you think is a sweet spot and you just kind of want to stay in that range, or do you want to grow maybe incrementally over the years?
I think this is my sweet spot. The only thing that we have talked about, because we're at that line where we do feel like, because we do have the hog nose and these others, and then, we're raising our own rodents. We feel like we're at that point where if we decided to get more, we would actually have to have a bigger space. So we have to do that. We need more rodents, because you always have to produce more than you need to make sure you don't get short.
Exactly.
It would not be cost effective to just do a little bit more. It would be more cost effective to almost double or triple what we're doing, put a big facility in, or a bigger, we're not talking Justin level facility, but I put an actual
go hard or go home.
Yeah, right. No, that's my motto in life, and it's killing me. Is like, you can do it better, Brittany, yourself. You can beat what you did before. So we're at that point where if we don't want to get more unless we're ready to take that step and actually get bigger and look at hiring somebody to help. Because obviously if you want to travel, you want to go places where, there's that concern, because of course that's going to be when they decide to lay, even though they shouldn't, Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. And we're considering it. My brother, we're actually going to talk to him. So he's very interested in coming in on that. And that may be a situation where we wouldn't mind expanding, but not unless we had help.
Gotcha.
And at the moment, we're teetering that line where it's just not worth it yet.
Speaking of like vacations and stuff, in terms of clutch production, are y'all primarily like producing most of y'all clutches at one time of the year, or y'all kind of like year round and there's not really
we're
like
pretty much year round?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think like last year we had something in the incubator almost all the time, but it's not fun to take a video, like it's not good for those video clips because it's like, oh, there's 2 in there right now, and then like the next month or 2 months later it's like, oh, there's still 2 in there, there's just, now there's 1. Oh look, it's a big one, we got 4. I mean, it's not, because they are sporadic, but I like that because it's easy to be like, oh, okay, now all the fun part's over. Now it's just months of work. I like the spacing it out. And Johnny
Gotcha.
enjoys doing the ultrasound, so he's like timing all this.
Gotcha. I think last season we cut the incubator off for like 2 months, and that was it. So last thing from like last season hatched out in January. Or actually, it didn't hatch. It was only 1 egg, and it went bad. And so like that was the last clutch of the season. So went out on a sour note there. But then like we had the incubator off for like 2 months, and now we got it back on and got 1 clutch in there, and expecting like some clutches in the next few weeks here. So yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. I think
Yeah.
ours was off maybe a month, and then we got a
Okay.
clutch, and then the clutch went bad. It was the first time, and they didn't look good, but you have to try,
Yeah.
But that was kind of depressing because that was a gap, and it was like, oh, it's just exciting. It's exciting when there's something in there. It's like it's a present that it's gonna come
Oh yeah,
soon.
yeah. I love having stuff to look forward to. Like towards the end of the season there, we had like some clutches that we had a lot of slugs with. So we changed up some things with temps and stuff this year. And so hopefully we don't have that this year. But like that last clutch, that girl pretty much slugged out. And she had 1 egg that looked like it was going to be a viable egg, and it lasted like the entire incubation period, no issues. And then like 2 days before it was supposed to hatch, like it just like went to hell in a handbasket. I was like, oh man, like wow, like you could have just went bad like at the beginning. Like why did you wait this long to go bad? Like it just went downhill quick. It's like
Yeah,
wow.
I hate that. That's
Yeah,
disappointing when you're
yeah. I was like,
that.
man.
Yeah,
And that was the
and
last
me and
clutch of the
Johnny,
year.
when I'm not on a deadline, me and him are like, if we know something's like pipping, and then I'll see him getting his keys, and he'll be like headed, and I'm like, where are you going? Are you gonna open the incubator? And he's like, no, I was gonna go feed the chickens. And then as he shuts the door, he's like, and check the incubator. And I'm like, no, was that me? You're not. It's like this competition. I'm gonna look at it first.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
So what
it's
is
kind of like it falls under. So we cut, but only after the first one pips. So once
okay.
1 or 2
Okay.
have pipped, we'll put it like a slit so we, the other ones can come out easier. That's not shade or hate either way. Everybody can do
Just what you do.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do what works for you. As long as the animals it's turning out great for you, go for it. So but yeah, that falls under like cheating between Johnny and I. It's like if one of us, if we see pipping and we don't get the other person, oh no. I'm like, oh, you did. And I'm like, how dare you? And he's like, well, I didn't think you'd be excited about that one. And I'm like,
You did it without me.
yeah. Or I'll do it. I'll be like, look, babe, I'll send him a picture. And I'll be like, and he'll be like, what? You did it without me? And then I'll be like, well, I knew you wouldn't be home for a while. And I thought that you'd be excited to see a picture.
But yeah, it's dope that both of y'all are so excited about it that's even a thing though. So that's cool.
Oh yeah. We'll tackle each other. We think the other one's gonna try to beat him.
So what are some of your biggest like wins and losses since you've been breeding ball pythons? You can tackle whichever you want to first.
Biggest wins or losses? That's a tough one. I would say the worst thing I remember as like the as far I guess as a loss goes, in my mind, and this isn't a big one to other people. So when I started with ball pythons, I fell in love with Freeway. I was like, all the things Freeway, I need all the things Freeway. And so my first snake I bought was the Banana Fire Freeway from Billy. And I finally got my first clutch that had the possibility, right? And I got really excited and I went and I opened them. This is the cheating thing. One of the situations. I opened it and one was like coming out. And I knew they weren't really due for like another, I think it was like 8 days or something like that. But it was coming out and another one had put like a little slit. And I thought, well, if they're coming out, I'm going to go ahead and cut these little things. So I had 2 Freeways and then the rest were Ivories. And I was like, Oh, bummer, because the dad was, of course, a freeway, so he was yellow belly asphalt, and mom was a yellow belly. So I hit 2. And Johnny comes home and he gets mad and he's like, why did you do that? Why did you, cut the hole? And he's like, they're not ready yet. And I'm like, but the one was coming out. They were like, clearly they know, they think they're ready. Well, the next morning he goes down there and that one had passed away. It turned out that the egg just had started rotting, but it was so close to being time that it had decided to come out because the stuff in the egg was gross. But we were so
wow.
new. This was like my 3rd clutch. I was really new, didn't know this. So he fusses at me. And he's like, now, the other ones are going to die. They didn't. They were all fine. I was just sad. There were 6 ivories in the clutch. Why did I have to lose the freeway? That was my dream. I was literally buying ball pythons to have a freeway. And then that's the one. Like, why? So yes, I know that's not big to some people. Probably the true biggest loss, if to most people that know us, would be the black ball, red ball project. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Where like the guy was selling the solid red ball pythons or the solid black ones out of Poland. And we figured that it wasn't true, but it goes back to genetics. We decided that it'd be fun to prove it one way or the other. Yes, it's real. No, it's not. And we didn't care if we lost the money. So I have a video on my YouTube and stuff about it. It didn't end up proving out, obviously. But for me, again, that goes back to, I guess it's like the game part of it. I wanted to know for me. And so I wanted to do it, whether or not it ended up proving. And if the information helps people, that's wonderful. Most people that know I did that, they're like, oh, I can't believe it. I felt so bad for you. And I was like, kind of went into it like, all right, I spent this much on snakes. That would be, an X percentage of loss. I can handle that to be able to do what I want to do, which is to learn and to figure things out. And, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, they're cool. It went like, you'll sometimes see them pop up. People are like, oh, where can I get a red one? They believe he was dyeing the eggs, the babies in the egg, putting the dye in them. And then it was like coloring the babies like an Easter egg almost.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a crazy story. Probably should do a video sometime because it was a wild ride. Like, it was soap opera level crazy what was going on behind the scenes. I mean, it's super funny. So yeah, I need to do that at some point. But so those are probably my biggest losses, I guess. As far as the biggest win, that's a tough one. I was pretty excited with when I got my first leucistic hognose, just because you're playing the odds. I know it's not a ball python, so if I don't count, but that was pretty exciting, not gonna lie. And then hatching the Cosmos last year, that was
nice.
Opening up and like, oh man, yeah, that's something that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I was talking to Nick from TBM Reptiles, and like he was him and his son, they were bringing me up to speed on like the hognose game and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. And I hadn't held a hognose before, so it was pretty cool to feel like the keeled scales, like it felt totally different than like what I was used to. So that was a dope experience. And he was kind of like telling me about the process and all the stuff. And he said he does pretty well with the hognoses.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think not last year, but like the year before, we reinvest a lot of the money because we see a project or we want to take a project a different direction. But I think there was one year that, and I don't even have a lot of hognose. I think I have 15 girls or something. I have to go count because we had some holdbacks and stuff. But we had like 90,000 in 1 year on them.
Nice.
I mean, yeah, people want them. Like, I mean, you post a picture before, like, as soon as they're out, I'm like, whoa, I'm not even selling these yet. Like, I need
it.
Yeah, so I love the hognose. They have their own frustrations, but then they also are just, it's fun.
What year was that?
I don't think it was last year. It was the year before. So that'd be what, 21?
2021?
Yeah, I think it was 2021 was something like that because we were laughing. I think that year we'd made, like I said, if it was 21, but whatever, that year we made like 90,000 on hognose and like 20 or something on ball pythons. I mean, it was because again, we have been focusing, we don't have a lot of clutches, but we've been focusing on a lot of holdback stuff.
Yeah.
So, preparing for the future. I tried to do a video a couple years ago of my collection because people kept saying, we want to see. And I stopped halfway because I was having Johnny hand them to me and I was filming. And I'm like, that looks like a normal. That looks like a normal. And I was like, never mind. I'm going to film the bins. It's like a triple recessive looks really cool on the bin. It doesn't look so cool when you open the bin. It's like, look, it's a pastel with a special sauce in it, you know?
Triple hat though.
Yeah, but like I was like, this video is the most boring video ever. Like, and another one. That's what I started saying. I was like, and another one, and I never even posted the video because me and Johnny were just dying laughing. So so yeah, my ball pythons have been a little slow. Like each year, there's like a clutch or two that I'm like crazy excited about. And then other than that, it's kind of a lot of keep hanging on. It's going to be cool in like another couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, you setting yourself up the right way. Like working on projects is hard to produce, but when you do hit it, it's gonna be some really dope animals, and those really dope animals help take you to the next level. So like that's the tips and the feedback I've been getting. It's like just set yourself up for the future, and before you know it, you'll be there, and you'll be like routinely like producing like really crazy stuff. So yeah. Definitely.
You have to
Looking forward to
start.
the future.
I mean,
You gotta wait. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the odds have to
Patience.
be with you.
Exactly.
I mean, we work with the Mandarin, and we had the Mandarin asphalt inchie, right? Male. And when he came, his belly was not right, like for asphalt. We were like, I mean, not right. Like it looked fine, but it did not look like an asphalt. Like it should have been clean.
Okay.
He's got a dirty belly. Like, I mean, it is messy. We asked a couple experienced breeders. They're like, no, that is not an asphalt. And we're like, yeah, we didn't think so. So we paired him, and we paired him with like a yellow belly female, paired him with, let's see, what was it? It was an asphalt female, another yellow belly. He did like 4 or 5 clutches. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but he did like 4 or 5 clutches. I never got anything but like yellow bellies or whatever. I mean, I was like, okay, this should be it. Like if he was an asphalt and I bred him to like, I had a Mandarin and like yellow belly, I was like, I should get like a freeway. Like this will be really cool. I was super excited. Nothing. I took asphalt off his bin and had actually listed him on Morph Market as just a Mandarin inchie. And then I bred him to my Vanilla Fire asphalt. And the babies came out, and I had 3 super asphalts.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, he bred for me over 2 years with multiple females that should have produced, super asphalts, or they should have produced freeways, and he gave me none. And I mean, like that's statistics. That's part of rolling the dice.
Yeah,
like odds
sometimes
are
it
I
just
should have
works
gotten
that
it
way.
first. But he made up for it. I'm not complaining. I love super asphalt. He waited for the clutch that counted.
Nice. I guess sometimes it just works out that way.
Yeah, I just hope it's not going to work that way when we start reading these triple hets. I'm going to be miserable. At least we have DNA tests now. So, if I hit like, a hypo, I can check it, or a hypo clown, I can check to see if it's Monsoon, at least, or I can't check Monsoon. I guess I should say the other way. If I get a Monsoon, visual Monsoon.
To see if it's hypo.
Yeah, double check which ones and try to stack the pieces and wait a few more years for them to grow up.
Yeah, at least you can be like more selective, and you don't have to kind of like play a guessing game. You can hone in on it, so that'll be helpful.
Just the patience thing isn't. That's not one of my gifts. I hate waiting on things, but it'll be worth it, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm not gonna say it's one of my gifts, but I'm definitely having to learn to work through it and just like wait, because I'm working on like building like long-term projects, and so I'm definitely having to learn how to just kind of wait it out and just be excited, like, and push yourself towards like things that are difficult to make. It's gonna be really cool and set yourself up for the future. But definitely patience is something you gotta learn, and I'm learning it.
Yeah,
definitely not natural.
Maybe we all have to, and it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, it is true. Like it's cliche and all that stuff, but truthfully, like I know even if I miss the odds this year on some of the projects, that I'm going to be super disappointed and frustrated, and I'm going to complain about it online. But when I hit it next year or whatever, I think at that point it's just going to be like, I had to wait. And next, like there's like that added level of like, I worked harder for this.
Oh yeah.
So
not
fun. I'd rather have it up front, but I know that it's part of why we do this. Is it's the fun. It's rolling the dice and You know, in some ways, it's like, you know, back in the day when
Right.
it was like the collector cards with Pokemon. You didn't know if you were going to get the special one. And it's kind of the same thing. You look at our incubator and it's like, what's in that pack? I can't wait to see.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. All right, Brittany. So I got some wrap up questions before I let you get out of here and enjoy the rest of your evening. And usually with my wrap up questions, like I ask like kind of like the same like signature questions, but for you, I switched it up a little bit. And
Ooh,
so
I'm
I
special.
don't usually do that. So like consider yourself like special.
I am. You hear that, people? I am special.
Special. And so the first one is, if you had a supernatural ability, what would it be and why?
Invisibility. I could just so ghost people all the time. No, this conversation is not interesting. Bye. You know, like, it would be hilarious. And the pranks, my goodness, that would
Bring
be.
'em out.
Yeah, I think it would be being able to ghost with a very close second being able to fly.
Gotcha. Okay, okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. And so this is a question that I usually ask, but I'm gonna ask it a little bit differently. So I usually ask, if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be and why? But I want to limit you to two people for that one, and I want to ask kind of like a follow-up question. And is, if you could have dinner with any fictional character from your novels, who would it be and why?
From my novels.
From your novels, yeah.
Because I was going to be all over Moriarty right now, but um, it'd probably be, I have a character that's a phoenix that's very clumsy, and so she dies in the dumbest ways, like just stupid ways. I would have dinner with her because she'd probably die, and that'd be hilarious. Um, I'm all for the entertainment. And then I have another character who, instead of shifting into a werewolf, she can shift into three versions, like a split personality in a way. So she can create three forms, but they're all her. And, you know, she's like a spy and can do some cool stuff that way. I think that'd be cool. I'd just like to see that trick.
Nice, nice. And then the two real people, and it can be anybody, dead or alive.
Two real people. I would like to meet Einstein, not because I'm that smart, but because I love how I've read about him, how he seems like he'd be such a character, you know, in like real life, like such a down to earth person. I would like to meet him. And I would like to meet Mozart because he was such a rebel rock star of his time. And I was trained as a concert pianist. So I love music. I
Okay,
love his
nice.
music because it's fast paced and not slow. So I would love to meet him because he was constantly finding ways to poke fun at you know, stuffy, uptight. So those would be my two choices.
Nice. What's one question you would ask him?
I would ask him, did he really play the song and play the note with his nose? Because there's the story that he had to compete with this guy, and the guy's like, I can play whatever you can play. And he's like, all righty then. And so he writes this piece of music, and the guy goes to play it, and he has his hands at both ends of the piano, and then there's a note right in the middle. And he's like, this is impossible. Nobody can play it. And Mozart sits down and he plays it, and then he leans over and he hits the note with his nose. And so there's a story behind that, whether that is true or false. I would like to know if he really did mess with somebody like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's a dope answer. All right, so if you won $10 million tomorrow, how would you use it?
I would buy a tank.
A tank? Like a
A tank.
military tank?
Like, I like those like they had like a personal tank, you know, has like night vision on it. You know, they're so cool. That's like my goal. I don't need a million for it either, but that would be my quick splurge. Honestly, I'd probably travel.
Okay.
I really like to travel, and then we also like to do a lot of projects, which I don't really post that much about, but we like to do a lot of projects as far as like building schools and helping with like, you know, trafficking, water supply in different places, and support a lot of like coral reef restoration, where they help, like they hire the community to have those jobs so that the community is able to have better practices, because it's not really fair to go in and be like, oh, you can't do that. You can't fish here anymore when that's their livelihood. So you've got to offer alternatives, and that costs money. So there's a lot of projects I would want to do more support with as well.
Okay, I think either it was on Amazon or maybe it was on like your author website. I think I saw where you said you wanted to go to like Indonesia for like 6 months. Did you ever do that, or is that
Yes.
still like
I
something on the
haven't
bucket
yet.
list you got to do? Okay.
We're actually looking at booking a trip, not for 6 months yet. I have kids. Um, but we are looking at booking our first trip there. There's so much variety. Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's like a different habitat, and you can be at the desert, you can be at the rainforest and doing the photography. And I love scuba diving. One of my life goals is I want to spend a lot more time doing underwater photography. But to do
Nice.
that, you have to have a place where you can, like when I do it now, it's like, oh, we go to the beach for 2 days. That doesn't really give me enough time to figure out how to use the gear and the lighting and everything exactly like I need. So I get some good shots, but I don't get the practice I need. So
Gotcha.
when we go to Indonesia next year, I'm really excited because every day has very similar, for the most part, diving conditions. So I'll be able to like finish the dives for the day, come in, see like, okay, Brittany, you screwed that up bad. Like, you suck. Tomorrow, remember to turn the flash on. So I'm excited about that, so that I can, I can do that.
Nice.
And I like
Nice.
the food. The food sounds amazing.
Oh yeah. And lastly, what's one question you wished I would have asked you, and how would you have answered it?
Oh goodness, that's a hard one.
That's why I say
Oh.
that one to last.
Yeah, let's see. I don't actually know the answer to that one. Why is that one so hard?
So you're not alone.
Wait, I know. This is the one. Why don't people ever ask adults what their favorite dinosaur is? Like, when you're a kid, everybody wants to know what your favorite dinosaur is. So you can
All right,
ask
so
me that.
what's your favorite dinosaur?
T-Rex, because he
T-Rex?
clap his hands. Do you know why the T-Rex can't? Chris, I hope Chris don't close. He hates my jokes. Do you know why the T-Rex can't clap his hands?
Why is that?
Because he's extinct. And you're like, cut the interview.
Gotta do it. Nice. So it's been great. I really enjoyed this. Been looking forward to it all week. Before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to tell everybody? Like anything on the horizon you want folks to be on the lookout for? Anything you want to share with the audience?
Johnny and I have actually been between my deadlines. We have been working on more content. So that will be one thing is I've been going through our collection, and some of the genes that we have multiple, we get a lot of questions about Mandarin, for example. We went through and set up in the same lighting, did every single Mandarin, and then compared it to snakes that have the same genes, but not Mandarin. And side by side of the all the babies in a clutch. But I made sure to have the same lighting, because unfortunately sometimes you see two and it's like, yeah, but if the sun came out from behind a cloud, you can't compare this, not the same. So I made sure my studio lights, my camera settings, everything stayed the same as I took all of them, so you can legitimately get an idea. Even if the person doesn't like it, at least they can say, okay, yeah, I see what they're saying. It's not good enough, or, whatever. So that's one thing we're doing is some of these genes that we work with, we're going to start featuring them, but rather than just talking about them, going back to me being a visual person, we're just going to do a visual thing where we explain, a comparison and show pictures that's all in the same lighting. So that's a big project that we're working on.
Okay, that's dope. So yeah, y'all definitely be on the lookout for that. Again, Brittany, I really appreciate you coming out here, sharing about your experiences. A lot can be learned from you. Like, I really admire the fact that you got like so many different things going on, and you're doing very well at all of them. So definitely kudos to you on that. Really appreciate you coming out on the show tonight. Can you hang around for a few minutes?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me, and everybody that came and hung out. That was so fun. Like, I can see the little feed popping up on the side. It was like so cool to see people interacting and sucks, boo.
Yeah, you definitely brought a lot of people out, so I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody that came to check us out tonight, and those that'll check us out later on the replay, whether it's on replay on YouTube or whether it's the audio only version. But definitely appreciate all the support. week after week after week. Looking forward to next week's show. We're gonna have Leviathan Snakes on the show, so definitely come check that one out. And thank everybody for coming out tonight. Be blessed. Peace.